Colin.
Welcome, everybody. Very happy to see you, and welcome to all the new faces and new names. The normal procedure is we begin with readings and devotions and some music. But before that, I'm going to ask Tracy if she could give an acknowledgement of country and just explain what that is.
Thank you. So in Australia, we live on the land of many First Nations people throughout the continent. And as far as, anyway, the estimate of how long the culture has been in different parts of Australia is anywhere between 40 and 100,000 years. So it's a phenomenal privilege to live within this landscape of human interaction with the environment. I live on the Worimi people's land, but people live on different nations' land. And there's quite significant differences depending on the environment, whether you're living in desert or mountains or by the sea, the subculture, but the intention of being obedient and being in relationship with their creator to look after the environment and to think of future generations, and having the capacity to share and to live peacefully is quite phenomenal. And to keep passing on that intention generation after generation for thousands of years, to me, is a miracle. It's a human accumulation of amazing human effort as being good teachers, of being good custodians of the land. So we want to pay respect to that. And the best respect is to try and learn and practice it ourselves so that we can be thinking of the future generations as well. And we can create a peaceful environment for the sort of thriving of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, very much for that. And a little later, I'll introduce our speaker for tonight, which is Mr. Vasu Mahan, talking about a more powerful thought of love, how to counter hate speech using spiritual principles. And to prepare us for a spiritual presentation, we have some music and some assigned readers and music. Thank you.
அதை சார்ந்த குறியீடுகள்
Oppressors on earth, withdraw your hands from tyranny, for I have pledged myself not to forgive any man's injustice. This is my covenant, which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet, and sealed it with my seal of glory. This is my covenant, which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet, and sealed it with my seal of glory. of glory, of glory, of glory, of glory. This is my covenant.
At present, the light of reconciliation is dimmed in most countries, and its radiance extinguished while the fire of strife and disorder had been kindled, and it blazed fiercely. Two great powers who regard themselves as the founders and leaders of civilization and the framers of constitutions have risen up against the followers of the faith associated with him who conversed with God. Be ye warned, O men of understanding. It ill beseemed the station of man to commit thy tyranny. Rather, it behoved him to observe equity and be attired with the raiment of justice under all conditions. Beseech ye the one true God, that he may, through the power of the hand of loving kindness and the spiritual education, purge and purify certain souls from the defilement of evil passions and corrupt desires, that they may arise and unloose their tongues for the sake of God, that perchance the evidences of injustice may be blotted out, and the splendors of the light of justice may shed its radiance upon the whole world.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, and we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Christian Scriptures.
Let us behave with others as we would with ourselves. Let us look upon all living beings as our good friends. For in all of them there resides one soul. All are but part of that universal soul. A person who believes that all are his soulmates and loves them all alike never feels lonely. The divine qualities of forgiveness, compassion, and service will make him lovable in the eyes of all. He will experience intense joy throughout his life. Hindu scripture.
May the wise Lord, who reigns at his will, grant to each of us that which he desires. I desire strength and endurance to uphold righteousness. This do thou give me. O devotion, the rich rewards the life of the good mind, and may the sovereign good be ours, according as one desires. Bliss, may one receive bliss. Through thy most far-seeing spirit, O Lord, the wondrous of the good mind, which thou wilt give as righteousness with the joy of long life all the days. Zoroastrian Scriptures.
In safety and in bliss, may the creatures of all be of a peaceful heart. Whatever living things there are, whether weak or strong, with none excepted, great or small, seen or unseen, dwelling far or near, born or awaiting birth, may all be blessed with peace. Let no one work another one's undoing, or show contempt in any place. Let no one wish another harm through provocation or resentful thought. Just as a mother with her life protects her child, her only child, let all the embracing for all that lives be yours, and all embracing love for all the universe in all its height and depth and breadth. Buddhist scripture.
And when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest. And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am the Lord your God. Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another, and ye shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shalt fear thy God. I am the Lord. Ye shall do no righteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor favor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Jewish scripture.
And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely, for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Christian scripture.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Mankind was but one people, and God sent prophets to announce glad tidings and to warn. And he sent down with them the book of truth, that it might decide the disputes of men. And none disputed but those to whom the book had been given, after the clear tokens had reached them, being full of mutual jealousy, and God guided those who believed to the truth of that about which, by his permission, they had disputed. For God guideth whom he pleaseth in the straight path. Islamic scripture.
O humankind, verily, ye are all the leaves and fruits of one tree. Ye are all one. Therefore, associate in friendship, love one another, abandon prejudices of race, dispel forever this gloomy darkness of human ignorance. For the century of light, the sun of reality hath appeared. Now is the time for affiliation, and now is the period of unity and a concord. For thousands of years ye have been contending in warfare and strife. It is enough. Now is the time for unity. Lay aside all self-purposes, and know for a certainty that all men are the servants of one God, who will bind them together in love and agreement. Baha'i Scriptures.
Lucidchart makes
Come down and walk these roads around the city of Tehran, where 7 candles burn. Follow me, all you who claim to be possessed of charity, down to the crimson sea. 100,000 veils have covered the sun, and darkest clouds have blocked and blackened the blue sky. of those who educate, who even in the grave find no respite from hate. Have you seen the youth who gave their lives for truth? That girl who kissed the news and welcomed all abuse. 100,000 sons have fallen to earth with blasts that block the ears from hearing the new song. 100,000 veils have covered the truth. How many mothers' cries are lost in the tumult? No war to fight. You have no sacred right, no holy book to cite to make these wrongs seem right. Does it so offend to want this world to mend? To walk in hope to the end and see each man a friend. Come down and walk these roads around the cities of Iran, which boast so much to man.
Thank you very much to the readers and for the selection of readings which remind us of the common truths about love and unity and justice at the heart of religion and the choice of music. Welcome to you all. Please stay muted unless you're the speaker, and towards the after the presentation you can use the reactions button to put your hand up, and that'll make an orderly queue for questions and comments. It's lovely to see you all, and very happy to welcome our speaker, Mr. Vasu Mohan. Vasu Mohan has over 20 years of experience in democracy, governance, and human rights programming in Asia, with a focus on political, social, and legal empowerment of the disenfranchised, youth, women, ethnic minorities, and persons with disabilities. He leads Asia programs at the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, where he has been since 2001. He has supervised programs and field offices in Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Solomon Islands, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Timor-Leste. Mohan was responsible for the IFES, International Foundation for Electoral Systems, Women's Legal Rights Initiative, and Garima projects in India from 2003 to 2011, a program on violence against women and gender equality, women's empowerment, which focused on the expanding the dialogue on women's rights and legal resources available to women. He has also served in various voluntary capacities related to women's empowerment, including service as a member of the board of directors for the Tahare Justice Center, a non-profit organization working to protect immigrant women and girls seeking justice in the United States from gender-based violence. So, Mr. Vasu Mohan, I welcome you, and I understand you'll be speaking on the topic of a more powerful thought of love, how to counter hate speech using spiritual principles. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Kathmandu, where I am calling from. I'm in Nepal now. I hope you can hear me well. We don't have electricity, so we are running on backup power today. So I have sent my presentation ahead of time to
Mohan, Vasu, maybe do you have your sisters maybe to mute the other one, because it's
there is nobody else here.
Oh, okay.
I can muted.
Then maybe your bandwidth is not so good, because the voice is up and down.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Say that again.
Okay, hold on for just 1 second.
Still there is some, yeah. Anyway, let's listen and see how it goes.
Okay. Are you able to hear me better now?
About the same. It's not broken, it's just kind of muffled.
There is a bit of echoing in the room, maybe if you
today, and so we are running on backup power, and a range of different issues are going on. So I apologize if you cannot hear me still. Is it clear, Mr. Singh?
No, it's not clear.
It's not clear. Okay. I do have a backup option. Nobody else is on the internet. We just have low bandwidth here. So maybe I will try to call into my phone.
So still it is not clear. What probably we can do is...
It was better with your video on, actually.
Can
hold on for just 2 seconds. We tested earlier. I think it worked.
He's trying to use his phone to see if that's better.
Yes. You want to try your phone? Or call me on the WhatsApp. While he is there, I like to welcome those who have joined late and also for the first time. We have Dr. Velamal from India. She is a strong supporter of our World Peace Forum in Tamil, Velamal, and Amrita Ramachandran, Anita Ramachandran, welcome. And Suresh Kumar, he has been with us before and he made some presentation. Subhashri, Ila Sharma, Vijay Sharma, and Savita, Madam, she is from India and he's a strong supporter of our World Peace Forum in Tamil that we have every week on Saturdays. And Meeta Singh, welcome. Maria Nirmala, welcome. And Jyoti Nair, welcome and thank you for reading. And we have Mohan. I don't know whether it is connected to Vasu Morgan. Welcome. And Archana, Dr. Archana Vedantam, welcome. And yes. And Rosine from Germany, after a while, you have joined.
Are you still not able to hear me?
Yeah, it's better.
That's good.
I'm calling from my phone. Is it better or is it?
Yeah, it's
Much better.
better.
This is much better, dear Vasu. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you so much. Okay, so then Mr. Siva, maybe you can. Hi, Miss Pina. So lovely to see you. Mr. Siva, can you share the screen? Can you do the PowerPoint from your computer then?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We had a feeling this would happen. This is not the first time I'm having internet trouble in Nepal. So
I'm on the
I had already.
I'm on the first slide.
I sent my presentation ahead of time to Mr. Siva so he can share the presentation. Apologies for this hiccup.
No.
I was sharing earlier, we do not have electricity. This is not only an internet problem. There's no power. We are running on backup generator. We've not had power for. So this is just a little bit of reality.
By the way, Vasu Mohan is currently in Nepal as a pioneer. I'm on the first slide. A more powerful thought of love: how to counter hate speech.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you go to slide share mode and then to the whole slide is seen?
Yeah, they can see now, isn't it?
No, it's showing the version with all the slides. Can you just go to slide? Just there's a slide. A slideshow mode, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Siva. I appreciate that.
This should
work.
work.
That's it. I think you got that. Yeah, that should work.
Is it working?
Thank you.
Okay.
Not yet, but I think it will.
I think you have to enable editing in order to be able to do that. Just enable on the top, enable editing.
Okay, thank you.
Now press that screen button on the bottom.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Press slideshow up the top.
Yeah, maybe you have to switch.
That one. Yep.
Anyway, we can see the text.
You can see that. Okay, it'll become smaller. Some people are on the phone, so I was hoping we could do the whole thing. If not, no worries. Let's just go on and think and just move through this. The topic that I was looking at today. Thank you. That's much better. Thank you. The topic that I was sort of thinking about today is how to counter hate speech with spiritual principles. And the title of this talk comes from a quote from the Baha'i writings, specifically of the son of the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, Abdul Baha. This is from his quote, which I will, if you move to the next slide, we can look at this. This is a quote that a lot of people who are on this call would be very familiar with. And I charge you all that each one of you concentrate all the thoughts of your heart on love and unity. When a thought of war comes opposed by a stronger thought of peace, a thought of hatred must be destroyed by a more powerful thought of love. So the quote, the last line of this, a thought of hatred must be destroyed by a more powerful thought of love. This line has stuck with me both in my professional and personal life quite a bit. And as I was working, in elections, in democracy building, and sort of looking at a lot of hate that is used in political campaigns, in public discourse, and a way to counter that really as sort of start thinking about what is this more powerful thought of love? And that is what this presentation is about. What is this more powerful thought of love that we are told in this quote from the Baha'i writings, but also from various religious traditions that, hate can be conquered by love. And is that actually true in the world of political discourse, in the world of democracy, governance, human rights? Can a more powerful thought actually, in a very, very practical terms, destroy a thought of hate or conquer a thought of hate? So that is what this presentation is really about. I'll walk you through some ideas and then that I've been ruminating about, and then hope to hear from you about your thoughts and experiences, on this as well. Next slide, please. There was a very famous professor who taught in Massachusetts and has written quite a lot about race and race unity issues. Dr. Nathan Rothstein is his full name. Many of you on this call may be familiar with him. One of the things that he really talked a lot about is prejudice. Prejudice as an emotional commitment to ignorance. That is not rational. Prejudice is not rational. It is an emotional commitment to being ignorant and staying ignorant, even when information to the contrary is presented to you. For emotional reasons, we stick to that prejudice. Next slide, please. And this prejudice could be, or from a range of different sources. It could be around ethnocentrism, racism, ageism, sexism, religious fanaticism, ableism. These kinds of prejudices can come from a variety of sources and identities, and this is where the fundamental problem exists, that these are based on identity and therefore they are much harder to counter. Now, it's a little bit like people who thought that the earth was flat for a very long time. Also, we've sort of moved past that, but now we are back to sort of thinking that people are not equal, right? We think that people are so different, and so some are greater and some are not. And this is based on identity, and it is much harder to counter and address. So in working on democracy, human rights, issues, this is an issue that comes up quite often. How do you counter identity-based sense of superiority? And on the other side of it, a sense of prejudice. Next slide, please. When you look at now just this context of what is hate speech, when you go to the United Nations sort of defines this for us, any kind of communication, speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses derogatory, discriminatory language when referring to a person or a group based on who they are. In other words, religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor. So for something to be hate speech, really, it is based on identity, and it's therefore more dangerous. And it's not only the person who is being attacked, but everyone who shares that identity with them is negatively impacted by hate speech. And this is one of the reasons why in my line of work, this hate speech is such a powerful tool that political actors and leaders use to create an in and an out group and promote themselves as protectors of the in group. And so this creates, it's very hard to break. And the solutions to this truly, have to go beyond, secular legal sort of efforts and go into something more fundamental in us. And that's what we'll explore in this talk. I hope you can still hear me okay and clearly.
Yes.
So let's go to the next slide. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate that. Next slide, please. This is a map of the United States that we see all these dots. This is put out by an organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center. And it tracks how much, it tracks what, incidents of hate and sort of active hate groups and white supremacists, incidents. And you look at the number and the spread of the United States and how much of this is happening. And every year, it seems to be on the increase. So this is just one example and one effort of cataloging what is happening in the realm of hate. Next slide, please. We all remember the Black Lives Matter movement that Next slide, please. Thank you. The Black Lives Matter movement that started in the US, but spread throughout the world in response to racism and atrocity against Black people in the United States, but also something that is sort of much more universal in terms of racism, colorism, and colonialism, and has the impact on disproportionately on Black and brown people. If we can move to the next slide. Police atrocities, state-sponsored atrocities, or state-condoned atrocities against individuals who are minorities, who are indigenous communities, people of color, in many places, women. So this is a sort of, it seems like this type of hate is on the rise and being used as a tool to divide people towards specific, goals. Next slide, please. And this is not only, I most recently moved from the US to Nepal. So, I was putting together a lot of my thoughts based on the US situation. But this picture, my dad is not a racist, this child is, but this is from Australia, much closer to where some of you all are, or where actually some of you all might be right now. And then if you go to the next slide, this is during, during the time of COVID, we saw racism against people, of Chinese descent, East Asians around the world. And this is specifically around Northeast Indians who live in the Northeast states, who are sort of the same ethnic or sort of very broad sense, same race as East Asians. And they were really called as being literally called as coronavirus. It's one example, but this is something that happened around the world, this type of prejudice. And if you go to the next slide, also during COVID, but this is true of any sort of crisis where people are blamed just based on their identity. And this has happened throughout history. This is not a new, issue where groups of people are blamed for certain types of disasters or certain types of problems. And this kind of prejudice seems to be fairly universal in each country, every place that I have worked. There is one group of people or the other who are victims of hate speech, who are thought of as being lesser than others, right? So this is the core problem, and this problem is then exploited by politicians, it's exploited by social media, algorithms, etc. So I'm not going to go further to describe the problem, but really sort of focus on what can be done. So we can move to the next slide. And from this point, we'll be really looking at solutions and some ideas, experiences that I have, gained over a period of time. And let's sort of, be happy to hear your reactions as we move on. So let's go to the next slide. As I said earlier, really this question is, what is that more powerful thought of love? This is something that has been lingering in my mind. Is it, if the divisions are of tribes, is it then a higher identity than tribes? If the difference is of caste, is it a higher identity than caste? If the difference is nationalism, is it a higher identity than a sense of nations, belonging to a particular nation? Next slide, please. One of my favorite, I speak Tamil, which is my first language. And in Tamil, there is a, sort of millennia-old set of couplets that is called the Tirukkural. And one of the Kurals really say, I'll read it in Tamil and then also just share the meaning. You can also read the meaning as it's put up. The Tamil says, Noi nadi, noi mudal nadi, adu tanikkum, vai nadi, vaipachayal. First, you seek the disease, then seek the root cause of the disease, and then seek the remedy that will cure it. And then and only then administer the cure. So otherwise, we are treating symptoms. And very often, in terms of dealing with these types of issues of identity, we do a lot of symptom treating. And what we really want to do is to look at the root cause and try to address the root cause. If we go to the next slide, some of you will be familiar with a training program that was developed in the United States in the 90s called the Core Curriculum. And they took a beautiful quotation from the Baha'i writings. These ideas exist in a lot of religious traditions, and really divided thinking about problems in a way of knowledge, wisdom, spiritual perception, and eloquence. So to address this issue of hate speech, I also took the same approach and divided our, the strategies, thinking about first, what is knowledge? So the knowledge part of this is understanding what is racism, what is prejudice, what is hate speech, why do people engage in this, and what do laws say about this, right? There are laws, international and domestic laws and constitutions that, that really propose equality and promote equality and protect human rights. So this is the knowledge part of it. Then there is wisdom. How do racism and hate speech impact individuals and societies? This goes beyond knowledge. It's about how do it really impact deeply at a deeper level? What is the impact? And then what is unity and how is unity beneficial? So this goes from sort of knowledge, which is just information and facts, to wisdom, which is really understanding it at a deeper level and trying to understand its application and implications. Then we move to the next level of understanding of the problem, which is spiritual perception. And that is really looking into what the great world religions say about prejudice and racism and how to counter them. And then also really start thinking about what is oneness? What is oneness as an antidote to this? And then the last is, eloquence, which is really what does action informed by this knowledge, wisdom, and spiritual perception, what does this look like in practice? And, how do you counter prejudice and promote oneness in a very systematic way, informed by knowledge, deepened by wisdom, and really, sort of further deepened and by a spiritual perception. So we go to the next slide. I'll go through a few this is not really a, I'm not going into a significant legal analysis, but just for all of us to be on the same page to know that as we look at religious, spiritual inspiration, we also should be aware that in the secular world, in the international jurisprudence legal world, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights really is a sort of a powerful document that is there for all of humanity. Unlike other covenants and treaties, this is a declaration that is every human being, simply by virtue of being a human being, is born, it's declared, this declaration states that they're born free and equal in dignity and rights, right? And they should be able to enjoy these rights without any kind of discrimination. And then the Article 3 talks about the right to safety of people. And then Article 7 is equal protection for all against discrimination. And the violation of the declaration, right? And the incitement to discrimination, that people are protected, people are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and they can enjoy these rights, and these rights should be protected. There's a lot more of these, but I just want to frame this in the context of a secular approach. And then if you go to the next slide, which will talk about the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. And it's from 1965. It really talks about, that states should actually address dissemination of ideas based on racial superiority or hatred or discrimination or violence, that states have a duty to do this. Of course, in some cases, we see that states themselves are, promoting and engaging in this, but at least the standard is clear in a secular sense that states have a duty to protect people. So if you move to the next slide, specifically because hate speech, and especially online hate speech, is used disproportionately against women around the world and causes significant, emotional, psychological, and other barriers and discrimination for women to enjoy equal rights, as human beings on this planet. There's also this convention, I just wanted to draw this CEDAW, where states are asked to, take measures and sanctions where appropriate to prohibit all discrimination against women. And similarly, there are other international, treaties as well. So that's what's on the legal side. Next slide, please. On the more practical side, organizations. This is a very good friend of ours, Susan Benesh. She's a professor, and she works on this program called Dangerous Speech Project. And this is just one example, a very good example, I must say, one example of many efforts by academics, nonprofit organizations, media entities that are working to address hate speech and dangerous speech. So if you go to the next one, this is another, this is another conference, a lot of ideas and information about how to say no to hate speech. Can you go to the next one? So just to give a sense that in the secular world, there are a lot of efforts that are going on in this. And it feels like the efforts to counter hate speech are catching up, but not quite able to completely avoid and address hate speech. So with this, so there is knowledge, legal issues, wisdom, what is happening. The societies are being torn apart. Individuals are being harmed. Groups are being harmed. And now let's look into insights from spiritual traditions. What can spiritual traditions say on these topics? So the first one, I would love somebody to read the quote. Can someone who's on call please read this quote for me, please?
Peace is not the absence of tension, but the presence of justice. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
So, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, famous spiritual, leader, civil rights activist. And this is a really important quote from him, where he says, peace is not the absence of tension, but the presence of justice, and really makes this connection, between justice and peace. And this is really important when we try to address issues around hate speech, is to understand what is the absence of that. And often people will say the absence of violence is peace, but really peace is not the absence of violence, but the presence of justice. So let's go to the next quote, and I would love someone to read the next quote for me as well. Could somebody else read this quote, please?
Peacemaking is not passive. It is the act of interrupting injustice without mirroring it.
Thank you. This is from a Christian tradition, sort of a liberal Christian tradition. It's from a liturgy of, sort of a book. It's really interesting is this idea that when we engage in peacemaking, which is the lesson here is to also, when we engage in countering hate, countering prejudice, we have to interrupt that act, but never mirror those strategies. If we hate the people who are engaging in prejudicial speech or hate speech, we become no different from the person who's actually engaging in it. So it's a really powerful idea, is the act of interrupting injustice without mirroring it. So means do not justify ends. And especially when it comes to countering hate speech, one of the most important spiritual lessons is, to understand interrupting that injustice, we are not mirroring the injustice that is happening, right? So if hateful language is being used and we are countering that hate also with hateful language, then I think we are interrupting that. And if there's prejudice from one side and we start feeling superior to the people who are indulging in prejudice or who are indulging in hate, if the moment we start feeling any sense of superiority, then I think we lose the battle. And this is another lesson from a spiritual insight when we engage in what we call counter speech. So when you're trying to counter hate speech. So let's go to the next one. Can another person please read this?
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
This is very similar to this. There are echoes of each other in these quotes, right? That we are reading. That only love can, drive out hate. Hate can never drive out hate. Let's move to the next one. This is from the Sufi tradition, from the poet Saadi. Can someone else read this one, please?
Human beings.
Another volunteer.
Human beings are members of a whole in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members are uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. Saidi Shirazi, Sufi poet.
Thank you so much. Sadi comes from this tradition of mystical, poets, very deeply rooted in Islam. They are Sufis, and this is from that tradition that we're drawing this idea that human beings are members of one whole body. This idea comes in different religious traditions, including the Baha'i faith. If any one part of the body is afflicted with pain, other members will, also feel that pain. And if we don't feel that sympathy, then we are not human. So what makes us human is that feeling of empathy and sympathy with those who are suffering. And in this case, particularly with, and I'm applying this particular quote and this insight to doing counter speech, it is easy to feel sympathy and empathy for the people who are being attacked, people who are being vilified, people who are on the receiving end of hate speech. But it is much harder to have that same empathy and sympathy for the person who is engaging in that kind of hate, right? And what would counter speech look like when we can extend that, that idea of sympathy to also people who are engaging in hate, speech. And I think this is what spiritual traditions call us to do, to be good and kind and understanding to people who are also good and kind and understanding. That's not the that's not the real work. The real work is to have those same sense of feelings for people who are not. So that's just something to keep in mind. Can someone read the next one, please? The next.
Some are friends and some are strangers, so say the small-minded. For those of high character, the whole earth is but one family.
Thank you. This is a Sanskrit poem that it's pretty old. It comes from one of the Upanishads, and it goes, I am Nijaha Paro Vedi, Laguna Ganachetasam, Udhara Charitanam tu Vasudaiva Kutumbakam. This is that, people who make this us and them are really small-minded, and for people who are actually conscious, spiritually conscious, the whole earth is but one family. And what does that look like in terms of engaging in counter speech? To understand when to speak up, when to engage, when to support is also just something to keep this in mind, that we are part of one collective human family. And how do we respond? They say, don't be a bystander to hate and discrimination. Be someone who is an upstander, or someone who stands up, for what is right. So encouraging people to engage with discrimination and hate, and to be brave. Of course, be thoughtful, be careful, but also to be brave and to channel that sense of what we would do for our family. Are we willing to do that for people who we do not consider our family, but people who are, suffering? Can we go to the next one? This idea of, being human beings, being part of one family, is also reflected in the Baha'i writings with this beautiful analogy of the body politic. Society, can be likened to a human body. As far as the various members and the parts of the organism are coordinated and cooperating, our body lives quite well. But if they lack coordination, or some part of the body is in pain, then the whole body is going to feel it. And, sometimes this is what we call disease, dissolution, and eventually death. So all created beings are dependent on peace and coordination. That's at the level of atoms and molecules and cells and the human body, and goes up to societies, societies and nations, are. I wonder if someone is speaking, and maybe just if you can mute yourself, that would be great. Thank you. So I think this is sort of where there are a couple of more quotations, which I'm happy to email this this presentation to others, but this is sort of where I want to stop. And really, thank you, Mr. Siva, for sharing the slides and for allowing me to speak on the phone. I hope you were able to hear me fully. So the key ideas that I want to leave us with is one, that spiritual principles, spiritual traditions ask us to engage in countering hate with love. And to, even when we are countering, to think of the people that we are countering, the people who are perpetrators of injustice, of hate, also, extending compassion and sympathy to them and thinking about them as part of our family, human family. And certainly to be able to stand up for anyone, whether we agree with them or not, whether we share an identity with them or not, whether they are known to us or not, how to stand up for them, in a public setting. There are many sort of practical ways in which counter speech is made. That is a different talk, a different presentation. But this one, I really wanted us to sort of think, what are religious spiritual principles teaching us? And this has huge value in when we encounter hate online. Do we choose to respond or not respond? Are we responding with anger, or are we responding with love? Are we responding with a level of compassion? Are we in any way, intentionally or unintentionally, mirroring the tactics or the tone that's being used by people who are engaging, in hate? If they are angry, it may make us angry, but are we responding with anger? And you see these kinds of things. The people at some point in these discussions, the level of hatred for two different points of view, even if one is right or wrong, the level of hatred becomes so much that it suddenly people start attacking each other as people, not just the ideas that they disagree with. And then it's so much harder to build a level of unity. So this is sort of what spiritual, spiritual traditions, religious traditions, and for me specifically, my own religious tradition, the Baha'i faith, teaches, is that we have to respond with love, and we have to definitely respond and stand up for anyone who is being attacked, but do that with with thoughtfulness, with intention, with the principle of unity always, sort of as the overwhelming principle, recognizing that sometimes that cells in a body can turn against the body itself. And yes, they need to be, addressed and removed, but there is a way to do that without destroying the whole body. And very often this is where, our mistakes are. We think that means sort of, ends justify the means. And this is something that spiritual traditions talk a lot about. So I'll stop that and turn it back over to Mr. Siva. Hopefully these ideas can generate some discussion.
Colin is the MC.
Thank you very much, Basu. That was exceptionally clear from Nepal, and the slides were simple and clear as well. So I really appreciated that. Everyone's got the idea. They're putting their hands up in order. I'll have to put myself in the queue for my question. Please, Sandy.
Yes, thank you for that very nice talk. And you touched on mostly all the various salient points. But I think you have done justice for the time, because this is a vast topic if you wanted to deal with in a detailed manner. But my suggestion is, if time permitting, if you can take a case study, say for example, because there are two wars going on right now, Ukraine-Russian war and the Palestine and Israeli war. So maybe one of them you can take as a case study and give us the salient points how we could apply that, given the fact that the profound saying of Martin Luther King about the justice, that justice is a gray area in the global world now. It's a relative term. And say, for example, the Ukraine and Russia war, Ukraine says they are in the justice path, path of justice, whereas Russia says it is in the path of justice. How we can overcome these differences, and is there any way or suggestions? Maybe just because of the time limit, you can give us some salient points. That will be grateful. Thank you.
Maybe we can hear from others as well, and then some of these questions are way beyond what we can cover in one conversation, but I mean, it's wonderful. Thank you. So maybe we can hear from others, Colin, and then I can try to respond to a few things. Would that be okay? It'd be love to hear from everyone. I see.
Yeah, if everyone's happy to do it that way, there'll be a queue for questions, but fortunately that question was also mine, so I'm in favour of what you say. If anyone is responding to this question before Vasu does, please just unmute and speak, and we'll just keep that other queue going for other questions.
Yeah, just for this question. This applying this to an institution or a country is very difficult. The transformations has to start from individuals and from the grassroots levels. As this grows, then possibly this institution will be also changed. So that's my comment on this.
All right. Well, I'll give my comment because it's the opposite, and then Vasu, you can adjudicate. I think it's impossible for them to. But in some cases they're fighting for their security, and it's up to the international community to provide a secure environment. Then they can start forgiving and loving. That's my thought.
Okay, I'm happy to. I was just going to hear other questions, but if you want to discuss this topic, then I'm happy to sort of sit with it for a second. So just to be very clear, what I was speaking about was hate speech between, in the context of individuals or communities, right? I'm not talking about acts of injustice or acts of war or acts of territory, even though they're connected, so I'm dividing those two issues. International peace and how to address those, issues of territory, of colonialism, of, sort of different groups claiming the same land. This is a different set of principles to address them, even though they will also involve oneness of humanity and, certainly oneness of humanity, certainly anti-discrimination, certainly a place of love and feeling like a family. There are very clear, instructions in holy books, particularly in the Baha'i writings, on how to adjudicate these. And that's a different talk, and I'm very happy to go into that. But even in that particular context of Israel-Palestine, one of the things where my current topic from today has implication is people are, so I'm not talking about Israelis or Palestinians at all. I'm talking about others in the world who are engaging in this online, right? So when a person encounters a particular point of view that we may disagree with, let's assume there's one group of people support, one side or the other of Russia or Ukraine or any other type of issues. Without getting at all into the rights or wrongs of the issues, when you start engaging in online discussion, how to engage without vilifying people and having disagreements on the topic. So you may present the topic, you may present your own solution, you may present your ideas, but without actually vilifying the person who is presenting an opposite idea. That's what this conversation is about. To bring it down to a very practical example, you're having a meal around the table. You have one member of the family who takes one point of view of an international, conflict or an issue of discrimination. Another member of the family has a different issue. How do the two engage with each other with respect, with dignity, with love, without vilifying each other? And how to do that same kind of thing online, amongst colleagues, amongst friends, amongst people you don't know? That is what this topic was really, trying to focus on. How do we engage in a conversation with people with whom we fundamentally may disagree with the viewpoint, without letting that slip into an attack against each other, against each other's identity or viewpoint. That's really sort of what I was addressing here. Now, when this happens at a larger scale, when a country or a political leader is engaging in hate speech, to do counter speech to that, we really have to weigh, okay, who is the right person to do that counter speech? What would be the strategy? Who are they speaking to? Are they speaking to that political leader or that particular individual who's engaging in hate speech? Or are they speaking to a larger group of audience who are listening to it? Because you may not be able to change a person who's willfully engaging in hate online, but you absolutely can have an impact on the broader group of audience that are listening to it. So you change the norm or the tone of that conversation by acting in a certain way. You can either increase the level of hostility, or you can try to decrease the level of hostility. And how do you do that strategically? And for that, these spiritual insights are important. That's the point I was trying to make. Resolving international disputes is a separate level of, a separate discussion, where the Baha'i writings actually say that there should be a tribunal, an international tribunal, to resolve these issues. So we have, to a limited extent, the International Criminal Court, the ICCJ, and certain other entities within the UN, but they are sort of very early ideas of this principle that is expressed. So it's work in progress. They will be, just like the League of Nations led to the United Nations, what will come after the United Nations, or will it evolve more? This is a much, it's a different topic. This needs to be done at the level of international institutions that have the power that nations have voluntarily given them to address international conflict. So that the Israel-Palestine issue is not going to be solved online. Certainly not going to be solved online by people engaging with each other with their own ideas. So, but while they are engaging, where they should be free to, how can they do that with respect? How can they do that with a sense of humanity, a sense of dignity, even with the person they disagree with? This is where I thought, the spiritual traditions have something real value to add. Not that there is an immediate solution to any one of these problems, in this, but how we engage. But maybe, sometimes, just as ends don't justify means, sometimes maybe means could lead to better ends. I don't know. This is just a question for us to think. If we change the way we approach a problem, sometimes you see little bugs that keep going and hitting themselves on a window. And if only they backed out a little bit, they can see there might be another way out than that closed glass pane, right? So are we willing to do that collectively? So I'll stop there, turn it back over to you, Colin. Maybe this addressed the core issue, or at least reframe that from the perspective of what we were trying to do with this call.
Thank you, Vasu, and thank you, Sandy, for the good question. Sandy, I think you're trying to say something, but you're muted. Did you want to say one more thing?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, thank you for that reply. Yes, I understand. So for one example is, say, when you are communicating with a person, you can also say in a way that is less hurting to that person. For example, suppose if one person has scolded me, so instead of telling him directly that you have scolded me, you express your feelings when you heard what he said. Mm-hmm. So that is, in a way, he feels that you are hurt. It's not that you are accusing him. You express your own feelings. That is a way of communicating during conflicts. Just an example. Yes.
Thank you, Sandy. Pina.
This is just presenting a scenario. I was walking with a friend. Oh, yes, sorry. These two friends were walking. And then suddenly, before they turned into where they were going, there were people also passing by at the roadside. Then suddenly this man touched the bum of a friend that I was walking with. Then I reacted or I responded, I don't know which one, but when someone said, if you react, that is without thinking. That is a sudden thing. And when you respond, that is well thought. So I followed this man where he was going. He went into the restaurant. And I said, this man has touched the bum of my friend. Then I left. Now, was it right? What could have been the best way to react or respond? Thank you.
Hi, Miss Pina. So lovely to see you after so long. Miss Pina and her family are so dear to us. We've, from Sri Lanka, and their family was just one of the pillars of, the community building in Sri Lanka. Much, much love to you, Miss Pina. I haven't seen you after a very long time. So I think this is a little bit of a interesting scenario. There's no wrong answer, right? When we stand up to do something with justice. I think the fact that you're asking this question leads me to believe that you yourself are thinking, okay, is this the way to have done? Could I have done something else, right? And maybe that's where I would say to have a healthy sense. I'm not going to answer your question because I don't have an answer to it, but I do have a point to make, which I will make, which is, when the biggest sort of mistake I feel is when we are so sure of ourselves that we are not willing to question, did I do the right thing? So rather than point out to that scenario, I really want to sort of applaud. I think the world of Miss Pina, so that's different. We're taking that personal connection out, but just this question, did I do the right thing? The ability to step back and reflect on what we have done. And this is for individuals, for nations, for communities. It is such an important step to be able to step back and reflect, and maybe we don't get it right the first time. But in asking that question and being open to the fact that we might be wrong, this is one of the biggest barriers that I find when we try to do this type of work, is to be so sure in our belief, in our approach, in our way of doing things, that we are not open to the idea that, oh my God, we might be wrong. And I think, and maybe we can call it humility, maybe you call it, some critical thinking, a distance from ourselves. But I genuinely think that capacity to introspect, to reflect, to consult, and then to collectively come up with solutions is really the answer to that issue. Whether specifically you did the right thing at that time or not, I don't have an answer to, but I do want to really, emphasize this idea of questioning. Questioning ourselves, questioning collectively, and being open. And this is what, going back to that quote from Nat Rothstein, that prejudice is an emotional commitment to ignorance, is so important that we might, take, for example, there's a general prejudice that women are bad drivers. I hear this from my taxi drivers all the time in Nepal. I don't have a car here, so I don't drive. Constantly, people are commenting on this, right? Is it based on any kind of scientific study? Is it based on who causes more accidents on the ground? It's based on nothing at all. But there is this prejudice, right? So let's assume a study is made and they find out that, in fact, men and women are equally bad drivers or equally good drivers, or when, one group is better than the other, or, or maybe even this question, when there's a scientific study and that study comes, are we willing to question and change our opinion? When facts contrary to our current belief are presented to us, are we willing to engage with it with an open mind? This is what is important. And this is the lesson from, spiritual traditions, to be able to change our mind, to have enough humility to know that we don't have all the answers all the time. And that we could, and this is also the real basis of it's a scientific method, isn't it, to be able to do that. So I feel like that's the point to make from this. So I'll stop there, and Colin, over to you again.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying these questions and answers. Jung, over to you.
Hello, how are you? Mr. Vasu, it's a very important subject that you've been talking about. The answer for your question is so easy. counter hate speech using spiritual principles. It's so easy. I just suggest that if you do a survey, you ask people about it. There are two ways, a long way and a short way. The long way is to pray for these people, to get to the high level, like you say, nobles, to be nobles, just like the saints. Okay, so pray for them is a very long way. It can take up to like 100 years to do that. And the second choice is give them funding, give them $125 million if they gave you hate speech, just like, domestic violence. And people just, oh, I don't like domestic violence and all that hated things is coming out from their mind. It's good for them to talk. We don't just stop them talking because they had to release their, frustration. So it's good to hear what they talk about. And then we give them funding, okay, $125 million help you if your husband send you out of the house, just say, for example, and other women too. Okay, so that's so easy. The survey first, long way to pray. Second, very quick solution, give them $125 million to sort out all the problems, hatred, racial, female, children, ages, AOs, or whatever. So now the problem is the context. We the one who keep talking about it. We the one who awaken them with the ideas of prejudice. If you work for an organization of 8,000 people, the first thing you do to update legislation, everybody had to follow the rules. Affirmative action program for women will be implemented, and nobody allowed to say hate speech, because if you do, they take you to the court. If the union not backing you up, the employer doesn't backen you up, people can lose a job, or they can go counteractive, go to the court. There's a justice system there. Or go through the court, and you pay the fees for the lawyers. So that wake people up. So we the one who cause problem, because why? We keep talking about USA, Germany, final solution, the Jews, these people and that people. We don't move on. We have to move on, because that's spiritual development and advancement. You want to be noble. You want to be angels. So you have to move on. You're not talking about the past.
Young, I'll interrupt you there. That was a good long comment, and we've got a few people waiting, and the time's ticking. Is it okay if we move on?
And certainly, I tell you what, I can't be oneness with criminal, and I can't have unity with criminal, because God does divide the light and the darkness, the sun and the moon, the light and the darkness. So they are two different. If you don't follow God, then what group of people you belong to? If you're not noble, what group of people that you belong to? So we the one who divine, not God. God hasn't changed, but people change. So people do their theory and practice. All right, so they are court justice system. We don't muck around with criminal and scammers. At the old time, when the Bible was written, we didn't have so many scammers like nowadays. Now we have a lot of scammers now, but in the old day of Adam and Eva, there are no scammers there.
Young, I'll just mute you to give Vasu a chance in case you want to make a comment.
No, I said that we have no scammer now. I mean, the scammer will be deleted from the society by the court system, by the judge. But in the old day, when they write Bibles, there's no scammer there.
All right, Young, thank you, Young. Vasu, did you want to say anything?
No response. It's wonderful comment. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Young. I appreciate that. Yeah, lots of good things, lots of good points in that. No specific response, Colin. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Rosine, you're next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank you all for the commentaries and also for the presentation. It was such great. Yeah, I learned a lot. So my contribution to this topic, I would like just to say that when we are spiritually educated, we should remember that we are like a candle in the darkness. That means we should not accept the others to be perfect and to be good. We should be the light to help the others to be good. That means when we are facing a situation of hate, how as an individual, how to respond it, especially when we are already educated, I mean spiritually. So we have to focus and to trust the principle of God. Can be as a Baha'i, as a Christian, as Muslim, we have to focus on the principle of God, and the principle of God is love. And we can use love, justice, and also kindness. So why I put the three together? Because if you use love without the justice, it's not gonna work. If you use the justice without love, it's not gonna work. So we have to follow all the true principles together, the love, the justice also, and the kindness, because we can respond also the justice through a rude way, and maybe the person cannot understand. That's why when we use love and justice and kindness together, it's easier to show the perfect example, because the others, they are learning, and we should not accept too much. It's like, when it's dark, and the candle is the only things we can show the light. So we are this light. So if we turn on this light, it's not gonna be a light anymore. That's why. So when we are spiritually educated and informed, and we know how to respond, I mean, it's like we are the remedy to the disease in the society. So as individual, we should always focus to seek to do what is right to do and noble, like the other says, I repeat again, and through the holy writings. So as Baha'i, for example, you have the chance through the Ruhi book, the Ruhi process. On the book 1, we are learning 3 levels of understandings. So the first level is teaching us how to read the holy writings. The second, how to put in practice. And the third level is the most important for me, I find it, because this level is helping us to use the holy writing through each situation. It's like a doctor who is reaching a level. He knows, for example, with that disease, he's not going to use paracetamol. For example, if somebody has malaria, he will prescribe something else, chloroquine, or I don't know. So it's the same. So to use the holy writing in our life to respond to the situation, it means we have also to focus on the principle and to trust the principle, and not to say, no, this situation is too hard. I think maybe this time I should react maybe in a different way to show that I don't accept it. And when we are following this, it's not anymore the holy writing. We are following our egos. That's why we have always to remember that we have the ego inside of our heart. And even we are already informed and educated, but the holy principle can always be our guidance. So yeah, this is all I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosine. Vasu, any comment?
No, beautiful thoughts. Very much, absolutely on target. So thank you, Rosine, for sharing that.
And Sandy.
Yes, mine is also just as a comment, because earlier I said about one comment about how to, how addressing this one. The other thing is, because when there is a conflict, or whether it is a hate or whatever, there are external agents as well as internal agents. So the internal agents are ego and emotion. So Stephen Covey has said that if there is a stimulus, if somebody triggers you on something towards hate or anger or whatever it is, so then when you respond, you have a pause of 11 seconds. That means you have second thoughts, subdue your emotions, and subsequently the ego is also subdued, and then you come to a sensible response. So that is another suggestion. This is recommended by Stephen Covey, the famous writer. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Sandy. And my comment was also just a comment, not a question, but it occurred to me that there's not much in the world that we can control or change directly, but there's one thing that we can, and that's our thoughts. So that makes a lot of sense, that we just change our thoughts from a thought of hate to a thought of love. Ahmed.
Maybe next.
Yeah.
Ahmed, I will have a question.
Actually, I am sorry if I can interrupt for a second. I have to drop off because we are going to, a different engagement that I have to leave. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. And Mr. Siva, thank you for allowing me to be part of this discussion. I think there are wonderful thoughts that are going on, but I have to, say goodbye. So thank you. I just lovely being here with everyone, especially friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. So much love to everyone. And I'm sure you'll continue this conversation. There's a lot of comments and wonderful comments. So just sending a lot of love and appreciation for this group and this space to engage in a topic like this from the perspective of spiritual traditions. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. I think individuals, communities, institutions, there has to be significant levels of response to this. So it's not easy. So anyone who thinks the answer is simple and easy, I think you just really want to, that's the place where you want to rethink. It is not. There are some very concrete guidance, but as we put them into practice, all these tips that have been shared are just really great, and they help each other and help us in helping each other and helping find a solution to have, a more loving, just, kind discourse, amongst ourselves, online and offline. So I appreciate that very much, and thank you for putting up with my internet problems, electricity problems, and still allowing this conversation to continue. Much love to everyone, and thank you, Mr. Siva, for inviting me to be in this space.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. We all made it somehow.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, let's continue our
Thank you. Bye.
Well, I'm wondering, he said that solutions are not easy, but I'm wondering whether there are the solutions are twofold. One, I lost my track of my thoughts actually. When Christ says, if somebody slaps your cheek, show the other cheek. And there are very similar texts in the Holy Scripts that humbleness towards, enemy or prejudice is the best way, the best solution to go. And always when I see somebody is trying to hurt me, I try to help and, appreciate them more than others. And that way I calm their heart, and, resolve their problems through the solution of being a friendly person. Yeah, but the other thing is, I had something else to say, but I forgot it really. Anyway,
you can come back. In the meantime, I think we have some new friends. I'd like to. Dr. Archana, are you still there? Because you put a comment. I love to hear any practical examples of how someone used ways and means of behavior to overcome them when faced prejudice, and what all made him successful. Would you like to comment, or are you there? Okay.
Siva, I think I found the other one. I think is education, by educating people. Especially we now have internet, by providing the information, you educate people. And I think this is happening, for example, in Iran. The young people, because they have access to internet, they are absorbing these new concepts, and education is very important. So twofold, I think, education and showing your humbleness, the other cheek.
Thank you. Can I comment, or maybe a question? Even though he's not there, we can discuss. I think one of the things that he touched upon, why the hate speech comes about, because we see us and them, the identity crisis. Now, we identify ourselves in many ways as I would say I'm a Sri Lankan, or I am a Tamil, or I'm an engineer, or I am a grandfather. Different groups, we have a different way of identifying ourselves. But how do we identify, or how we can make people to think that we are all one as human beings? So in his talks that he actually brought quotations from Hindu scriptures that we are all one family, from the Baha'i, and also what is that, the Sufi poet, he said that, and even Martin Luther's. So how we can bring about this understanding among people in the first place, how we should have that in our mind all the time, that we are all one family, we are all one, and how to bring about this in our society. That is one thing. The other thing that I wanted to, because he said that when there is an injustice, we had to stand up, but not to mirror that injustice. Was a quotation from someone. I saw many video clips from around the world when definitely there was an injustice done to someone, and the people around take the law in their hands, and then they go and bash up their person who perpetrated that injustice and things like that. Now, how do we change this attitude? Probably Pina's question was something related to that, because she was reflecting whether is that the way that I should have. So how do we stand up for justice without actually, even to a minute degree, that we are not doing injustice in return? That's my question. Two on identity, and also how to stand up for justice.
Maybe at the, say, for example, practically at the normal secular level, maybe say when there is an issue, you put yourself in the shoes of the other person and see how he will say when you are doing something to somebody, how he will respond. That is at the secular level. And the second thing is at the spiritual level. I don't know about the other religions, because in Hinduism as well as in Buddhism, the concept of oneness is a very deep concept. It's a sort of a realization, spiritual realization. That means we are all one. That means not only the humans, the entire nature of all animate objects, they are all one. So that is a really deep perception which comes through realization. So first it can come with all the human body, the global human body, and then this one. And he quoted from the Hindu, one of the scriptures, that Vasudeva Kudumbakam means they all are one family. That is the meaning of that Hindu script, Vasudeva Kudumbakam. That means Vasudeva means it is the divine. So God's this one. And family, Kudumbakam means family. So, but this is the thing from the spiritual side he was mentioning. But I thought he could not go into the in depth of that one because of lack of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Archana has put a comment on the chat because her speaker and camera doesn't work, so she can only type in this. She says, maybe by believing my value doesn't depend on another person's behavior. Like Gautama Buddha, it helps to be non-reactive. How they behave is their karma, and how I react is my karma. I like that. Thank you.
Yes, in that concept, I would like to add, because Lord Buddha had said, say, suppose if somebody scolds you, he says, say, he had in fact told somebody who scolded him and abused him, I don't accept your scolding. So what then he said was, if I don't accept, it goes back to the person who scolded.
Yes, it's like somebody is giving you a gift, and if you say that I don't want to accept it, it
yes, yes,
goes to the person who was giving it, so they receive that. Yes. There, Robert, Jiva, Ila Sharma, anyone else, Vasanta? Otherwise, we can still discuss. And I also have a comment about forgiveness and justice. It actually changed my thinking when I read from Abdul Baha. He explained this. He said, if someone, I mean, he was talking, if someone comes and attack my friend sitting next to me, I will defend him. If someone comes and attack me, I will forgive him. So this is probably this is what Rosin was trying to say, that transforming our spiritual qualities to become light, that how I should learn to forgive someone who is offending me or hurting me. At the same time, if someone is offending or hurting someone else, you defend that person. That means stand up for justice. It's a big challenge.
Can someone go and, if somebody offend me, can someone else come and say you have to forgive them? Without defense?
No one
Can somebody say that it is okay, you forgive? Sometimes we say, if somebody offended somebody or something, we say, oh, it is bad, but it's better you forgive. Is that right? We really know that the person has been offended. Instead of asking for justice for that person, can we go and say, a person who is offended, it is better that you forgive and get on with your life? Can we say that?
No, I think we individually, this is what we had to develop. We can't go and say someone else, you forgive.
Yes, another way of spiritually understanding is maybe, so we are all spark of the divine. So we have that spark, and that is what it turns us into spirituality. With that understanding, we can, before going into the oneness, we can understand. Say, for example, myself and all the people who are attending the Zoom, we all have the same spark of divinity. So we all are in a common sense one, or some common thing there. So common denominator there. So from there onwards, say for example, you can extend the logic. Say if, say for example, if say Perry is scolding me, that means he is scolding himself also. That you extend the same logic. So
Yeah.
that is another way of looking at it.
Thank you.
Can I just add that I think forgiveness looks different in different situations. Like someone might be a victim of violence, or even a child might be a victim of violence, or a wife, or and they may be very spiritual and forgiving, even if it's happening. But forgiveness doesn't look like just taking it. You have to protect yourself, and first of all, or protect the child, and then when everyone's safe, then you can show forgiveness in a different way.
Just on what Sandy was saying, I always remember this hidden word from Baha'u'llah when you said that the spirit, the spark from
Yes.
God is in everyone. The hidden word says that, "O son of being, with the hands of power I made thee, with the fingers of strength I created thee. Within thee have I placed the essence of my light. Be thou content with it and seek naught else. For my work is perfect and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof." And ever since I read this hidden words, maybe 35 years ago, I memorized it. And also this is the one makes me to think that everyone is one family. And what is within every one of us is the reflection of God. And that is what Jesus said, or in the Bible it is said that we are all created in the image of God. And that is in every religious scriptures.
Actually, this the last speaker, that lady or that girl who was speaking, she gave a very profound thing about the nature. So by nature, so what she meant by nature was not the physical nature, what we consider as our nature. It is actually the cosmic nature, which includes the physical nature also. Actually, if you take the God out of the equation, it is basically the realization is the resonance with the cosmic nature. So suppose if you are in conflict with the cosmic nature, then that cosmic nature will not immediately, but at its own time intervene. And that is what she was mentioning. I was surprised to see that it has something to it. The same type of thing is it is in Buddhism, it is in Hinduism, but it is also in Islam. Like that is what I felt, because she quoted that. She could not elaborate on it. She could not elaborate on it because maybe.
Last week's presentation.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what I like that what she said.
Yes. And there's a comment by Dr. Archana again. She said that in forgiving, we are forgiving our own selves as well as those who caused us pain. That was a quote from Alice Miller. And then there's another comment. She says, by taking responsibility and seeking forgiveness, spirituality, transformative healing through love and reconciliation, restoring harmony within. Oh, divine wisdom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. If everyone remembers, what's her name? Tracy gave a presentation on this. Ho'oponopono. That's the divine wisdom. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Thank you very much, Archana. You have a lot of wisdom. One day you had to give us presentation. Can you please write your phone number on the chat for me?
I just want to say that is what Sandy was saying, that all the spiritual concepts are very similar in all the religious faiths. So that part of the various religions are identical. The concepts are exactly the same. We just read here, it says, the earth is my family. And then Baha'u'llah says the earth is one country, mankind citizens. So many of these spiritual concepts are identical in all religious concepts.
Thank you. And Colin has shared 23rd of November, our presentation session 153 by Tracy was on that Ho'oponopono, traditional Hawaiian practice of reconciliation and forgiveness. Thank you, Tracy, Archana, for reminding that. Any other comments?
Can I please ask on that forgiveness? I think some people, they forgive because they have no choice. Because if the other party is too powerful, what else is these people going to do? They have no choice, so they got to be subside, you see?
That's not forgiveness, that is oppression.
That is a wisdom. They exercise wisdom by just not, doing confrontation or whatever. So they had to have no choice to do that.
Well, they have to wait for the karma to happen.
But that's going to be a long time.
Well,
I don't know whether that you can call it as forgiveness. If the other party is so powerful and I don't say anything, I am still under fear and I am oppressed. The mind is in a different state. The mind is, you say, oh, he is ignorant, that's why he is doing, or she is ignorant, that's why she is doing. I have to forgive and I'm forgiving. That is a different way. But this man is so powerful and beating the child or the wife, and the wife feels that she doesn't have any way to resort. Therefore, she keeps quiet. That's not forgiveness. That is oppression. That's oppression, and there will be a lot of trauma inside. Rosine, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Silva. It's about forgiveness. Wise people say that anger and hate, it's like the very hot charcoal that you are holding to throw to somebody and you never throw it. And what is happening is burning yourself. This is one of the reasons we have to forgive, because this hate is not going to affect the other person. It's affecting ourselves, our soul, including our body. We got so many diseases, etc. Yeah, there is no reason to hold hate and anger inside our heart. We have to do, as well, this is a daily exercises. We have to try every day to release whatever we have. We should release it and let it go.
So what you're saying, self-denial. Not really forgiveness. It's self-denial. Your rights.
Colin said before, there is also justice. Yes, if there is a situation that you have to reclaim for justice, then you have to do it. And there are special people, institutions for that. But there's some situation that you think there is no need, for example, to go to the court or to look for a lawyer, or you can just reply with a word, a simple word. But holding the hate inside the heart, this is the wrong things to do. Yeah.
Well, I think, Jung, I think it comes to my mind again, the quotation from Christ, that if somebody slaps you one cheek, show the other cheek, because that's the only way to remove hatred. rather than, as was said, going against it with hatred.
Well, it depends how strong the slap is. If one slap is enough, then you have enough. It depends how strong it is, because your head probably spin around,
Okay.
And maybe I will just give the one final comment maybe about after hearing only that comments, the things, the thoughts came to my mind, because say for example, when there is a conflict between two persons or two parties, so actually the aggravation happens not because of the direct incident, but because of the past, the memory in each person of past incidents or happenings. So actually, if you live in the present moment, so there is no past, no present. It's a continuous present moment. So you focus on that present incident and not go into the past memory of past incidents and past arguments or fighting or whatever, all that. Say, for example, that is also a very significant contributing factor in these things aggravating. Yes, that's all. Yes, I think that is my final comment.
Thank you. I think the time is almost past 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
By the way, Baha'u'llah has got a quotation, I'll paraphrase it. It says, when a thought of hatred comes to your mind, overcome it with a thought of peace.
Well, that was in the slide that he gave. It's Abdul Baha's quotation, yes. Colin, shall we close it?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you all for contributing. That I think we did justice to an excellent presentation by continuing the discussion, and it was very enlightening and helpful. And I thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very educational. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Educational.